mate. Welcome to the program. We've got Nathan Herbert joining us for Navy Diver Conversations, a video series where we connect the veteran community. So welcome, Nathan.
Thank you, mate.
Awesome. We had the great opportunity of meeting each other at the Coogee Bay Dawn service and the commemoration through that day.
We did.
What a fantastic opportunity that we had where Anzac was able to take place.
Yeah, it was good. I was really happy to have that. I was there with my son, so I always love spending time with my son on Anzac Day. I do what some of my mates can never do again, and that's spend time with their family. So that's how I usually spend Anzac Day. So it was fantastic to be there with him and be there with some of my close friends as well.
Really powerful opening dawn service statement from Adrian Sutter from Swiss 8, who's doing incredible things, as we discussed before, with veteran suicide and prevention. Get onto the app, guys, Swiss 8. Obviously, Nathan and I are really passionate about raising awareness for the cause. Yeah, mate, look, let's kick things off. Nathan's had 26 years experience in the military. So just rehash a little bit of your experience, Nathan.
Where do I start? So I joined in 1993, went to Kapooka, and then went to Singo, and then went to the 1st Battalion. Spent many years in the 1st Battalion, although some critics would say I spent half my time playing Army and Azure Rugby, which is kind of true. Did 11 trips overseas, some of which was 5 in Afghanistan, 3 in Timor, many others in the Middle East.
Too many to count.
Spent 13 years in military intelligence. And in the meantime, I did my masters in terrorism security, bachelor's in business organisation leadership, and now I'm out working in the corporate world, and loving life.
Great. Let's backtrack a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing from early life, teenage years, and some of your notable memories and achievements.
So I had a pretty normal upbringing. I had a great mum and dad. My father was a Vietnam vet, which probably drew me to joining the military. 2 brothers who sometimes acted like sisters. It was normal. Played rugby. We went to Brisbane State High School. Probably the best memories was hanging out with my brothers and my dad at the beach. Just us being beach boys. Yeah, that was probably some of my best, fondest memories growing up.
Brilliant. I mean, how good is it to be near the water or grow up near the water? It sort of molds you and shapes you, doesn't it?
Centers you.
What was the inspiration or influence that led you to joining the military?
My first toy I remember as a kid was a military soldier. My dad was a Vietnam vet. My grandfathers were in World War II. My great-grandfathers were in World War I. So I think it was almost destiny that I would end up in the military.
With your G.I. Joe toys.
It was G.I. Joe, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I was going nowhere else. I was joining the military and joining infantry because that's where they all were. So.
And how old were you when that was taking place, Nathan?
I think I was about 3 or 4 when I knew I was going to join the military.
Really?
And I didn't really change course since then.
Wow.
My dad tried to push me to be an officer, but I was not becoming an officer. I had way too many IR tendencies. So,
so you joined the military at what age?
18.
18.
Yeah.
Tell us about your military training experiences and the various stages you had to go through.
So I actually did 2 IATs. So the first one was at Singo as a young infantry soldier. I loved it. It was great. It was back in the days we used to do the 20 clicker pack marches. It was pretty rough and ready, but it made you pretty fit and ready for the 1st Battalion. Until you got there and you realised that the guys in the battalion they were veterans, so I turned up a year to the day that they got back from Somalia. So I walked into a section full of Somali vets. So it was pretty eye-opening.
Pretty intimidating guys too.
Yeah, well, some of them were almost violent felons, so it was pretty humbling is a word you could use. Yeah. You realise you were not the toughest kid on the block as soon as you walked into the battalion. The second set of training that I did was as an IET for Intelligence Corps. That was great. That was fantastic training. Really good location in the Gold Coast hinterland. 40 minutes from the Gold Coast. But their training was fantastic. You learned a lot pretty quickly. So I really can't fault it. And I can't fault either of those training establishments because I ended up an instructor in both. So it was both of them really good training experiences.
Let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, when you've got someone getting you to drag your backpack through mud and screaming at you black and blue, I mean, what does that feel like?
Years have gone, mate. It's been well over nearly 30 years, so the bad memories have dissipated, but I'm sure they were there. Yeah. Look, IETs and INT, I didn't get any of that. I turned up as a sergeant, so I was the same rank as the instructors, so I wasn't getting any of that. And back in Grunts, you expected it. My father had told me the stories, so I was ready for it. So there was no bad surprises. I expected any bollockings that we got, any group punishments. It didn't bother me. In fact, I found it funny sometimes. So
you took to task.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you recall your first days in service and what did it feel like?
Well, yeah, like I mentioned, when I first rocked up to the battalion, it was a platoon full of Somali vets, and some of these are fit and they were huge, and you go out drinking with them and realise that some of them were quite rough and quite handy with the hands too. So
so you couldn't skip a beer round.
No, mate. They were very tough individuals, incredibly tough, incredibly stoic. It was very eye-opening, and realise you're not in Kansas anymore. This is for keeps. It was quite humbling.
So let's dig a little bit deeper. What made them so stoic? What were some of the mannerisms, or for you, what I guess stood out as far as them being larger than life?
Well, this is a very good question, and something that I realised that we didn't have in Intelligence Corps or the intelligence units, but what we had in infantry. It was the fact that we were going through a lot of hard times together, and you either made it or you got broken. And I did see throughout my time in the Grunts, I saw a lot of blokes who did break, they didn't make it, and a lot of guys who just stuck it through, and they were tough. It was tough people, and it brought us together closer because we were going through hard times together, arduous hard times, and I think that's what brings people together. Whereas in Corps, and I wrote a paper about this, is that it was just a 9 to 5. It was a 9 to 5 job sometimes. I mean, when you were deployed, there were times when you were working 20 hours, but you're on your own. There's no one else there to help you. Whereas in Grunts, you're there as a team, you have to be there as a team, and everyone has to help each other to get through. And I think that's the reason why some of them were so stoic. It's because they had to be.
Do you prefer, I guess, autonomy or a bit of team spirit?
Well, for me personally, I'm self-autonomous, and I like just doing things autonomously. But the team spirit can really help everybody. And the mates that I've got from Grunts, I've still got today. And some of the guys, some of my best, closest friends in Corps were from Grunts. They were the ones I trusted because I've worked with them. So, and they'd been through the same hard times that we'd all been through. So it's the teamwork when you're going through the hard times is what gets you through.
It cements those long-term relationships, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, which wars did you serve and where exactly did you go?
Timor in 01, Timor in 06, in 07. We set off the Solomons in 01 as well for a while. Afghanistan 5 times, I think. I was deployed with the US Special Forces in 2015 to Doha, Qatar, countering ISIS propaganda, and went to Iraq as well.
So let's break it down, I guess, as an intelligence analyst, what does that involve?
Depends on what you do. So it depends on the job at hand, I suppose. So in 06, I was just a young intelligence corporal, and it was mainly just intelligence logs. It was pretty mundane and boring. 07, I was the acting sergeant in the 1st Battalion in Timor. That was a little bit more involved. We did do a little bit of targeting as well in 06. We were chasing a guy by the name of Kiak who killed a bunch of UN soldiers. And we ended up going up to Baokao. That was pretty interesting. It's good. It was fun.
Where's Baokao?
Oh, sorry, Baokao is in Timor. It's east of Timor. It's actually beautiful. They had a Club Med there. It's meant to be beautiful diving. If they ever fix up Timor, I'm not really sure. I've been there since 07. It's beautiful country. Baokao is, it's got rainforests there. It's beautiful, beautiful beaches, and amazing people, lovely people. So apparently he was hiding up around there somewhere. So Afghanistan 09, it was basically targeting. So we would build target packs for the shooters, so they hunt down the objectives, kill, capture, and when they either went out in clearance operation or what have you, we then do the exploitation and then write the hit reports. We'd also exploit or do tactical questioning of prisoners, and from there you have to write reports. I was also the S2 for a few PSDs, of which you constantly personal security detachments, looking after high-level individuals. That involved, just making sure that providing them intelligence briefs, and at times if they got into any brouhahas, I suppose, for want of a better word, you just had to keep providing them current intelligence. And it was the same thing in 09, you had to provide current intelligence, try and battle track as well. 2015 was, 2012 I was the senior intelligence analyst for the SCIF at CTU 3. That's where we had, I was looking after about 20 US soldiers, civilians, and Australian soldiers as well. And we had to, I had a main area that I was looking after, was Durawood, the Durawood area. So it was the same thing. It was just basically looking after that area, providing intelligence to the guys on the ground there, but providing intelligence up as well.
And what sort of intelligence were you providing?
Well, I built 2 target packs, both of which I named after my ex-wife, Expensive Prima Donna and Ethanol Princess. That's because her nickname was Princess Piss Rings. So, and at one stage we were having a fight because she kept buying too many handbags. So that's where they came out of.
That is brilliant.
Unfortunately, both of them got caught within hours, so the name didn't stay for very long. They got caught in the Tarangat Mosque within 6 hours. I was devastated because I'd spent weeks on these target packs.
Cover blown.
Yeah, I was. And just providing intelligence up and down the chain. There's not much more I could say about that. 2015, we were doing pretty much the same thing, but we were encountering the IO of ISIS, which was incredibly difficult. We were one of the only ones in country doing it. and they were pumping out something like 90,000 tweets a day, and we had to try and counter all of that. But we had an amazing US special operations team with us as well. They had 100 strong to our 6 that we work with, and they were fantastic. It was my best deployment of the 10 or 11 that I did. They were fantastic. They really know how to deploy, and they know how to look after their soldiers. Contrary to popular belief.
I guess what made the experience so fantastic?
Oh, look. It was, it was better conditions than I'd been before. They had 2 bars, 2 gyms, a pool. The hours weren't crazy. We're in the middle of the town, and they treated us like adults. We had our own car. We could go wherever we wanted. So some would argue it wasn't much of a deployment, but it was the work we were doing as well. We were really helping out with, with most counterinsurgencies. To me, half the battle is winning the information fight, winning the narrative, and I think we were doing quite well doing that. And we were starting to beat them at the very game, and that was great fun.
Oh, it would be. Yeah, makes the job feel like you've fulfilled something, you've achieved something, like you've had a purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about some of your combat experiences.
So I suppose it wasn't really combat in a way, but almost got stabbed in 2001 when we were on the border. I actually still had the knife at home. By an old militiaman. We were seconds away from being in a big tick, right on the border. We just didn't see a weapon, so ROE. In Afghanistan, we were in a few ticks with special operations, and in 2009 we got rocketed a few times. In 2012 we got rocketed. It was almost every day at one stage.
Life and death moments.
Yeah, one time I almost got hit by a rocket, but it landed in the shit pond about 50 feet away. And I just thought, yeah, that'd be right. I'd die from shrapnel that had been hit in a shit pond. Great.
It's a sign.
Yeah, it's a sign. Fantastic.
But you know what? We laugh about it, but being in the intensity of the moment's a very different story, isn't it?
Well, actually, it didn't bother me at that time. What bothered me the most was the fact that it was when my wife was there, is that her dog, where she was working, was not protected by rockets. So whenever you'd hear those sirens, there was about 5 minutes where I didn't know where she was. So that was probably the biggest thing for me. That was the biggest thing that worried me. It wasn't really me that I was worried about, it was more her. And the thing was, you just had to keep working. Had to keep trying to battle track. You couldn't panic, certainly couldn't run out there and try and get them. You just had to crack on and wait for them to come into our protected area.
Well, that'd be really hard because, you're saying you've got a partner that's working in the same environment with you.
Yeah.
Naturally, your natural discourse would say, are they okay? Yeah. Have I got their back? Can I do enough? But I think when there's a job at hand, I guess all that sort of has to, be put to the...
certainly in the back of your mind, but you just can't show any emotion. So you just have to crack on.
Was that hard?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah.
Tell us about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
I suppose, being on the border in 2001, there were a few instances, where the old guy tried to go for his knife. That was pretty exciting. In 06, same thing happened. Bloke chucked a knife, or tried to shove a knife through the fence, missed me by centimetres. Being rocketed was pretty memorable. I actually did enjoy the ticks, and it was probably because I felt safe because I was surrounded by 160 two-commando gunfighters, so I didn't actually feel that in danger. I thought I was perfectly safe, to be honest.
And what's a tick, if you don't mind me asking?
Troops in contact.
Great.
So I wasn't particularly worried about that.
It was a safeguard.
Yeah, you got 100 warfighters there. I actually didn't feel that in danger then. Look, playing Army and Azuri Rugby, certainly memorable moments for me. And to be honest, some of my closest friends played Army and Azuri Rugby. So that is certainly some of my fondest memories and some of the people I played with. Yeah, and probably just some of my mates who I'm still close with. Hanging out with them.
That's great. What was your most competitive Army rugby game that you guys had to face contact with?
It's always against Navy, and I think you know that.
Bloody well is.
Always against Navy.
That'll definitely get the fire started.
Those guys.
But you know what? You got to get the armed forces in for a bit of a showdown.
I think it's fantastic.
You know, gets the blood going, gets the boys competitive.
It's great. I think it's fantastic, and I think we need to keep that that tradition alive. Despite I know there is an aversion for physical contact sports in the military. They're all trying to save on money with insurance, but you need to keep that up because it's the closest thing we're going to get to battle, as they say, is rugby and some of those other contact sports. And the friendships and the camaraderie you forge playing those sports, you can't replicate that. Certainly not in an office environment, I can tell you that right now. So that tradition needs to keep alive.
We recently lost a very a good friend of mine, but also a huge legend in the Australian clearance diving fraternity by the name John Carroll and Junior. Once, he passed, the stories that came out about his professional rugby playing and the brotherhood that was created from his involvement in the sport, and you obviously know him too. It just stands testament to what you said. He was a professional rugby player in the military, and
very good.
A lot of stories were told as a result of him passing. Those memories and that comradeship, in a competitive sports environment is what forges I guess a different take on life.
Bridges services too. It bridges services. Like he was a great person, fantastic mate. We all loved him even in the army, except when we were playing against him, of course. But he was just a beautiful person. He was a great guy, and it was a sad day when he left.
Did you feel pressure or stress in these remote locations, and what situations may have triggered this?
Oh yeah, of course. Timor was, it was hot, it was lonely, and sometimes back then, it was 10 guys out in the middle of nowhere, no support, for days on end. Despite the fact that I wouldn't say it was a negative pressure, it was certainly a pressure. It was a heightened. You were on heightened alert for days, sometimes a week. And that can wear you down. You come home pretty tired. I remember in 2012, I was exhausted when I got home. I was shattered because with the rockets coming in, you're on that heightened alert all the time. So 2009 was incredibly stressful because I took it upon myself to make sure that I wanted all the guys coming home, and I wanted to make sure that the intelligence that I passed on kept people alive. So not only were we ensuring that we were hunting the bad guys, my main effort as well was to ensure that all the guys got home, which I'm happy to say that was the case, which was good. But that was incredibly stressful and incredibly tiring. And there were a few times there we were up to, it was 20-hour days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was tiring, and I didn't do anything like the actual shooters were. They were working incredibly hard as well, but yeah, it was. There was a lot of pressure on me to ensure that I passed on the right intelligence, so we didn't hit a dry hole, which means nobody was there, but also to make sure that people came back alive in one piece. So yeah, so there was a lot of pressure in some of those instances.
How do you decompress from, I guess, being on for 20 hours? I mean, the brain is only capable of so much.
This is going to be controversial, but back then we were allowed to have 1 or 2 drinks, and that helped. But also, SOTG and on deployment, you have a good gym, so I'd go and work out even for half an hour, and that would de-stress me. And when I got home, it was, this is going to be controversial, but my wife and I would go on a bender. We'd go on a bender for a few days.
Just letting off some steam.
Yeah, it was pretty huge.
Hi, missus.
That worked for us.
Yeah, good on you.
That worked for both of us. We would end up having massive screaming matches. We'd fight. We'd get drunk, and then we're good. We're fine. Got it all out of our system, and then we're okay. I know the current drinking climate in the military, that's probably frowned upon, but that worked. So, yeah.
That's a great way to decompress, and I think, fortunate for you to have, I guess, your partner to do that with.
Yeah. Well, it was good for her because, as I've alluded to before, despite the fact that she's my ex-wife, we've been shot at together, we've been rocketed together, we've been in riots together, we've been drunk together. I've been through more with her than probably most blokes have been through together. So she got what I was going through. I mean, quite jealously, she was in a tick before I was in Afghanistan, so I had to get one up on her. She got and I got what she was going through, so it was good.
That's awesome. I think, and that intrinsically is very bonding, irrespective of what courses you've both gone on. But I think being able to decompress in that way, thanks for sharing. How do you stay calm under pressure?
I now, when I was, many years ago when I was young and angry, I used to just get angry. But now I try and this is 9 times out of 10, I try and take a step back and just breathe and analyse the situation before I get angry. That's probably the best way that I do it now, is just try and break it down logically and try and take all the emotion out of it. After stepping away from the actual moment itself, last year I used to meditate, and there's actually a great veterans app, which I cannot remember for the life of me, that used to be able to meditate to. I work out nearly every day. That helps with my mental health and helps me to de-stress.